Beyond Rock and a Hard Place is the name of the greater research that I've been doing for a couple of years, just some freelance research, a lot of intersecting disciplines. This particular slideshow here consists of 230 or so digital photographs, all taken with a metallurgy microscope. None of them were altered in any way, so they are as seen here. They are originally taken. No edits. The criteria for which I chose these photos, basically, primarily, number one, to show or display what I hope is unquestionable and at least acknowledgeable presence of animal fossils, microscopic animal fossils. Number two, I chose these photos also based on the photographic criteria. I'm not usually taking these photos simply for the purpose of observing animal fossils, but rather I think some of them are kind of neat looking. Obviously, framing, composition, focus, lighting, vividness, and if I feel the photo could be provoking enough for the viewer, then that's a bonus. So as far as the rock samples that I photographed, they were not selected on any criteria. They were collected here and there exclusively in the greater Sudbury region of Ontario, Canada. And they were initially collected from the field, not with the purpose or not with any knowledge or assumption that the rock is constituent of animal fossils. At first, I was on a much different angle, and it didn't relate in any way to the prevalence of animal fossilization in our rock. With my borrowed geologic understanding at the time, that is from the geologic community here in Sudbury, Laurentian University professors, I was under the impression that the rock, having formed so long prior to the emergence of life as we know it on Earth, under that understanding, the rock should be completely devoid of animal fossils. Which sort of gave me a bit of a bleak outlook and a sort of a benign outlook on rock, to be honest. But I had to look into these certain things, and I'll tell you, animal fossilization is quite noticeable in. I'm not only going to apply this to Greater Sudbury rock, but I would like to apply this to rock in general. I feel I can safely apply this to basically the greater part of the rock that constitutes our planet is totally a biological remnant. And so hopefully you've noticed what I feel is unquestionable presence of animal fossilization here in these photos. On top of that, you might notice certain peculiarities, evidence here and there suggesting artificial construction, civilization, and intelligence. There's certainly a huge diversity of animals here to be seen. A lot of them bear resemblance to species we know to exist today or to have perhaps existed in the past on Earth. And many others beyond that I see on a repeated basis. Some of them are not immediately recognizable as animal species we would know today. So in any case, like I said, I was on a different direction in the beginning. No knowledge whatsoever of this being prevalent in our rock. And like I said, the geologic community basically determined that the presence of animal fossils would be theoretically impossible. So now going back to that and to the Sudbury region specifically, the Sudbury Basin is sort of its origin is debated, and we have a dual thesis here in Sudbury. For the most part, generally, we've lived under this belief that the Sudbury Basin is the result of an impact from a comet. Because of the lack of debris or evidence from the impactor. we determined that it could very well have been a comet that is a dirty snowball, which would explain the lack of debris and remaining evidence. So that's one side. Unfortunately, most of the evidence points to Sudbury being the result of a much larger continent-spanning geologic process called the Grenville orogeny. This division starts up north, beginning Labrador through Quebec, traversing through Ontario over top of where Sudbury is situated, and then down into the United States, along New York State, forming the Appalachian Mountains, along the Mississippi River, through Texas, and eventually this division, or Grenville orogeny division, terminates somewhere around the Yucatan in Mexico. So this line of division was basically coincidentally theorized to have happened 1.85 billion years ago. That is the time at which we have also theorized that a comet impacted in the Sudbury area. 1.85 billion years ago, two continental plates converged along this line that I described. This convergence happened and ceased to converge, I guess, several hundred million years after, finally. And this was in a period apparently when our crust was still cooling. And 1.85 billion years ago is a time at which there had not been any, or at least to our knowledge, any emergence of single or multi-celled life forms. So our understanding is that the rock itself predated life as we know it on Earth. And so now going back to this, obviously looking into this, the Grenville orogeny, and I assumed then the presence of evidence of extinct or passive volcanics or stratovolcanics in the Sudbury region. I thought it'd be really neat to have pegged to Sudbury's namesake kind of thing, to say that we have extinct volcanoes in our regional topography. So that is originally what I was after. I was visiting sites of interest that I had identified by topographical view, and began to collect samples here and there that I started to try and analyze based on what if they could be, say, certain smoking gun evidence for the existence of volcanics, such as shatter cones. The way rock is theorized to break into these typical shatter cones when there is an eruptive or compressive or explosive force in the rock. So those are quite prevalent. Also on echelon veins, identifiable throughout Sudbury. These neat features in the rock suggest at some point that there was an event with a large amount of pressure in the rock. Also other things, geographical features such as tuff rings and tuff cones, certain geographical features that a volcanologist would definitely identify as evidence of past volcanics. But in any case, it was a few things into this kind of hobbyist level research, I guess. Two things: looking at so many maps and so many topographical views. I've always been into maps anyway, but what I started to notice was, at the very least in the Sudbury area, was a very unusual animal characteristic shape to a lot of the geographical features, especially lakes in Sudbury, and notably how certain lakes were very similar to one another in the Sudbury region. So I thought that was quite strange. And basically, I felt that I could classify 12 basic shapes of lakes that were present in our area, seeing as 2 or 3 of our more prominent lakes, and we do have a lot in the Sudbury area, all had a very similar shape. Now that was one thing that tipped me off. The second was basically seeing with the naked eye what I felt was this repeated characteristic fish shape, an elliptical shape with an eye at one end, suggesting perhaps there could be a fossilized fish in the rock. So, but like I said, at the time I had this borrowed local geologic understanding that animal fossils could not possibly exist in our rock due to the chronology of events. Now, these factors, I guess, prompted me to get a metallurgy microscope to have a closer look. And basically, in short, the scene you're going to see again and again. And now every different rock sample that I analyzed or looked at and photographed definitely had unquestionable presence of animal fossilization. That is across the board, every single different type of rock. I'm not very good at identifying the different types, but I'll tell you there is there's a wide variety here in Sudbury. So I've photographed very many, and some of the samples that were photographed here are actually a waste rock product called slag from the mining processes. So this is rock that's been remelted and still shows this suggestive, I guess, some animal forms are somewhat visible, at least I think. And it's far too many coincidences to fall into into some kind of pareidolia when people are said to imaginatively create a face or a human figure or an animal figure that they're knowledgeable of in certain things that are inanimate, like trees, rocks, and so yeah, I'm not gonna discount myself with the pareidolia arguments, but I will certainly say looking at enough of this will certainly cause some type of onset of pareidolia in my experience. But in any case, so looking at these rocks with the microscope, basically the same scene you'll see seems to be a state of panic, a very desperate air about these creatures, all in certain ways, I guess, in their ways, seeking refuge. Some scenes will display all the animals fleeing in one direction. I'm not quite sure what the nature of the event had to have been, but I would certainly say that we're not looking at a passive accumulation of dying organisms. This rather seems to me like a flash death. I'm not sure if this is necessarily a flash permineralization or fossilization. I'm not sure how long it may have taken for these life forms to fossilize and permineralize. Permineralization, by the way, is well known to petrologists and geologists. In my original understanding, I thought that fossils were simply imprints left by having long decayed and withered away organism, basically a footprint rather than the entire organism literally permineralized three-dimensionally, suspended. You can still see quite a bit with varying distortion. In any case, yeah, this is certainly evidence of a mass cataclysm, and I'm not sure if all of these rock samples are displaying evidence of a same event. Not quite certain, but one thing I would like to get around is now this impossibility of animal fossils existing in our rock, at least here in Sudbury. Now, rock, as far as I've come to understand, has to invariably have had a biological origin. It's a carbon-based material said to have invariably originated from a biological life form. Plant or animal? Well, if I had to make a bet, I would certainly say animal. There are a lot of carbon-based remains around the world, such as coal, that is totally derived from tree particulate and not animal remains. But rock, as you might notice here, is totally prevalent, or I would say majoritively constituent of the remains of animals. Not only microscopic, like we're seeing here, this is focusing on this microscopic view here. I'm hoping to have the viewer recognize the strangeness, the diversity, and certain suggestive evidence here. You can have a moment to pause if you feel on any photo, zoom in. It's best viewed on a large screen or with high definition. But in any case, the rock that we're seeing here, and if I had to bet, the rock that I'm having a look at was not generated new here on Earth by any means. The rock, I feel, had to have pre-existed, and I mean pre-existed the formation of our solar system. And what is scientifically understood today is our solar system was originally an accretion disk of cosmic dust, that is rock in a disorganized fashion, from particulate sized to boulder sized and beyond. Basically, this shapeless, disorganized disk of cosmic debris was what came to eventually form the sun in our solar system as we know it, then eventually the planets, Jupiter and Earth and the others soon after. So the rock here, having pre-existed even the formation of our solar system invariably. Now, keeping that in mind and being totally full of animal fossils. I mean, I would like to think that the animal fossils we're seeing here in the rock are remnant of beyond the time of even the formation of our solar system. That might be a little bit seem outlandish to suggest, but I feel that we're looking at extraterrestrial ancient life forms here in our rock. I don't feel that it's any safer to assume that these creatures here you're seeing were earthborn and died in mass at any point here on Earth. Like I said, the rock having pre-existed even the formation of our solar system could very well have kept as far as what it withholds, and the rock that ended up here to create a mass and gravitational center here on Earth, and this is no different for neighboring planets as well. I'd like to bet that Mars and our moon and Venus all have this prevalence of animal fossilization. Not suggesting that these animals were born and had lived on those particular planets, but the rock itself, being a biological remnant, was jettisoned from somewhere else in the cosmos and to come here initially. So think about that, and I hope you've enjoyed the photos. Feel free to comment, like, or send an email, and I hope you enjoyed the slideshow. Thank you very much.